Hey guys, welcome back to my another video. On this video, I'm going to cover about the combine reducer and on Redux. And basically, so far in the previous video on part three, this is going to be part four. On part three, we build the name and location when we add, then we get able to add in our state on Redux, and our state is called restaurant state, restaurant state. If I can show you guys here. Here the restaurant state and it has a restaurant reducer. So we will add this data before on the video. So this time what we're gonna do is we're gonna create another reducer and we can make it combine using something called combine reducer. Okay, so let's begin. So basically, now if I go to my reducer in store, it's called restaurant store because we're only using only one store. So it's called a restaurant store. So I just give a restaurant restore. So instead of giving a restaurant store, I'll just change name to store now. Okay, I'll save this and I will go in my app.js file. And in app.js, what I'm gonna do is, I'm sorry, not in app.js, but in index.js. I will change this to store. Okay, so instead of calling the restaurant store, I'll just call the store. It worked perfectly fine now. So on this one, so here I will create another constant. Okay, call a root store. Okay, this would be a root store, root reducer, and I will add two root reducer. It's basically the object, nothing else. The first root reducer is going to be the restaurant, 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 and this is going to be a restaurant reducer. But we haven't created any other restaurant, so we need to create. So I'll just copy the root reducer, and no, I'm not gonna put it here. If I couldn't put it here, then it might broke the code here. So let me first create the another reducer here. So I'll just create a new file here and create a food bazaar, something called food bazaar reducer. Okay, so this is going to be different store. Before we are storing the information of restaurant, but we are now storing information of food bazaar. Okay, so on food bazaar, it's basically this is going to be same exact thing. So I will create a constant called food bazaar state, and this is going to be empty. And on this state, I will create a reducer, and this reducer is going to be a food bazaar reducer, and this is exactly the same thing what we create on the restaurant. It has exactly the same thing, state and action. It's all exactly the same one. I'll just copy this and I will put it here. Okay, which is exactly the same one, but instead of doing the restaurant action type, we need to create a separate action type for the this guy. It's better to create a separate action type. So I'll create a food bazaar actions dot action.js, and I'll copy this everything from this one restaurant and I'll paste it here. So instead of restaurant, I'll change it uh, to food. You know what? Let me change this first. Only this one, the action type. The action type is going to be food bazaar action type. Okay, so now we have food bazaar action type. So here in the ad, it's the same exact thing as a restaurant here. So then now the advantage of it is we can change it right here and I don't need to change anywhere for the restaurant, right? I can change add. This is a restaurant, okay? So here I can change or delete, but I can give a name called restaurant. And instead of here, now here I can give add and I can give any name, but it shouldn't be exact same as the other one. So it's better to give the state name here. Okay, so this is foodbuzzer.add and is action type.add, then it's gonna do this. Otherwise, add this. Okay, delete is also exact same one here. And here, instead of restaurant action, I need to change here food bazaar action. Okay, so add food bazaar action and delete food bazaar action. So our action is ready. So now it's time to change on reducer. So instead of doing a restaurant action type, we have a food bazaar action type, and we need to import this, of course, right? And we need to import it. Where is my the restaurant reducer? So I'll import it here. Okay, so oh sorry, instead of restaurant, of course I need to use a food bazaar action, food bazaar action type. Okay, so I have it here, and I have need to import it here as well, and this will change on my not restaurant state but food bazaar state here. Everything looks good except we need to export our reducer. So export default, reduce, import, export this food bazaar dot action type, but food bazaar reducer. Okay, so now food bazaar reducer is ready to go. It does exact same thing. It's gonna add and it's gonna delete. But what it does, it will add and delete on food bazaar state, not on uh, the restaurant. Okay, so I'll close this, and index.html, index.js good. Close this, close this. This is good too. Close this, and now it's the time to store. So here on the restore, I'll create another property called food bazaar, and here I'll call that reducer, which is food bazaar reducer, which I recently created and exported. I'm pretty sure I exported, but I will double check. Did I export? Yes, I did export this, and I'll paste it here, and I'll just import it here. So my root reducer is created, and it has a two reducer called restaurant food bazaar, but my root reducer is not been assigned to my store, so I'll just change to root reducer here. So now what happened is it will give me the issue here, expect the reducer to be a function. So let me check here. Something has happened. Definitely something has happened. So this is my food bazaar reducer, and this is it. And let me go in my restaurant reducer, which is this one here, which is good. And here I added, yep, of course I haven't used a combine reducer at all. It thought that give me the function here, but I give it the object. So we need to use the combine reducer now. So inside the combine reducer, we need to pass this. Okay. So once I pass this in combine reducer, now I could use the combine reducer here. Save it. Once I save it, now there could be a different issue. Of course, there would be a different issue because now if I go in my state, as I can see in my now state is going to be restaurant and food bazaar two array, not the only one. Okay, not the only one. I have a two array now, which is I have a I have a combined reducer as in chart I can see too. But what's the issue is going on here? I'm returning something called restaurant list, and the restaurant is not even a map here. So what's happened? Let me figure it out. What's going on? Okay, so I'm looping this on my app component. If you guys didn't check my previous video, please have a look. Because this is everything is done in previous video part 3 or you have to watch I guess from part 1 if you really deep want to understand what's really going on with the React and Redux. Okay, so in the app, what I did was I'm going to show you the quick here. In the app, basically you use a connect to connect with these props and dispatch to app. And in dispatch, when it's click the remove button, it doesn't have, but when this remove has been clicked, then it will dispatch this and delete action. But what happened is whenever we're trying to get this state, and this state is returning something called restaurant list to loop the restaurant list, but this state is not returning a restaurant. It will return a two. One is if I print this, if I print this now, hopefully I can see it. Yep, I can see it. Now it's giving me something called restaurant and food bazaar, not the empty array. Before I was using only one, restaurant store only, but now it has a so the store has a two reducer and two state. So instead of state here, I need to do restaurant. So once I do a restaurant here, so now down it will give me a restaurant store. It's gonna print a restaurant store here. So if I save it, this is going to be restaurant store. Okay. So whenever I click add, so now if I go in reducer, I can see my state. My restaurant store is going to add. If I click the save, only my restaurants because it's only calling my restaurant reducer action. That's why it's only calling on this one. Nothing will happen on food. If I go here, it will add a couple of this data on restaurant, but nothing will add on the restaurant at all, right? If I add that, it's gonna see it's gonna adding on my restaurant. But if I delete, then it's gonna remove it, right? You know what? I'm going to remove number two. I'm going to remove the first one and delete. Let me add. Let me add something. There's something number four. So let me delete number four. Number four will delete, and it's going to remove it, right? So, hold on, let me check. Yep, it's going to remove it. Okay, so which is working fine, but let me create another button. And if I add something with another button, then let me add a food bazaar collection, not a restaurant collection. Now it's only adding a restaurant collection, right? Only my restaurant collection is been increasing when I add it now. It doesn't do anything with food bazaar. Let me call that food bazaar event as well, using some action stuff. So I created in the restaurant. I'm going to show you what I did here. On restaurant, it called using a connect and map to props. So here it doesn't give me an error here because I'm not using this one here, restaurant list, but it should be a state.restaurant for now instead of using this. If I wanna show the another food bazaar data here, then I should give name called food bazaar list, and I should give a name called food bazaar here. So I can get this list as well, but I'm not using this list. I'm not showing at all. But now what I'm gonna do is I already did add button, and this add button will add the restaurant dispatch here. So here instead of add, I should write something like add 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 restaurant instead of just giving an add here. So add restaurant instead of add here, I'll just write add restaurant. And now whenever the form is submit, then it's going to add it here. As you guys can see, it's going to add it here whenever the form is submit. But instead of form submit, I will create I will not use the events here. I will use the events on the button. So whenever button on click, okay, on click, then it's gonna do this work, and this is going to save restaurant. Okay, so I'll copy this and paste it here again, and this is going to be a food bazaar. Okay, so instead of doing the add restaurant here on dispatch, so now I will use something called add food bazaar 2. Okay, food bazaar 2. And I will call this add food bazaar here instead of adding a restaurant. I will call the food bazaar here. Okay, and I need to import the food bazaar on my pros too. Okay, here. So now I can use it. But for just sake for this tutorial, I will pass the restaurant state as I create a state here. Instead of restaurant state, it's better to give a name called the state, I guess. And also I'm in restaurant component. It doesn't make sense, but it's fine. I will try to save a same exact state on Food Bazaar too. Okay, so here in adding Food Bazaar, I add a restaurant accent here, right? Restaurant. So instead of add a restaurant accent, I have something created. Add a Food Bazaar accent. Okay, so I will import that. Let me see I have exported that accent or not. Add Food Bazaar accent. I exported, which is good. So I could able to use it. So I imported on the tab here, add food bazaar action. So now there's a two action, one restaurant and one food bazaar. So now let me test if there is nothing issue. Okay, there's some padding, some margin missing, but it's fine. So I'll just go here and I'll just add this. So I'll click. Now it's going to add a restaurant. Okay, go to my state. Now let me add a food bazaar. Okay, it's adding the food bazaar too. If I go in chart, so adding one and one. If I added one more, also adding one more restaurant. If I want more, it's going to add one more. But if I click on food bazaar, it's going to add more restaurant. But if I click on delete, it's going to remove. But I haven't create a button for the action to delete the food bazaar. But anyway, this will prove that we could use, of course, the combine reducer on our store like this, and we could able to call our action easily. And another one more thing is we could also can add our initial state right here. If it's a food bazaar, I want initial state to be just for one and two. And if I want the another state I have is a food bazaar, and if I want food bazaar to be 4 and 4.4, then if I reload that first time, if I check my state, then see my food bazaar is a 4.4. Oh, the boat is food bazaar. I put it here. I should put a restaurant here. So if I put a restaurant here, so if I go in state, restaurant is 1.2 and 4.2, but if I click it, it's going to, of course, it's not going to work, I believe. It's going to add it, of course. It's array, so it's going to add it, of course. Is it working fine? It's just adding it before I click without putting the data. That's why it's putting an empty array. I don't have a validation on this form, but this is fine. So this is how we are adding the combined route and combined reducer on our store. Hopefully you guys want to learn something new, and if you guys like my video, please do subscribe and like, and thank you very much for watching, and I will put this code on GitHub so you guys can download everything. Thank you guys. Bye for now.